This week in Destiny for October 3rd, 2024. Episode Revenant releases next week at Reset, and we have a bunch of information to dive through today. A sneak peek at tons of exotic armor changes, weapon tuning, and new weapon mods. A preview of some of the new weapon rewards, as well as new Iron Banner armor and weapons. Fixing some legendary ornaments, a newly reprised strike returning, and much more. So this week in Destiny first kicks off talking about the stream from a couple of days ago. In it, they showcase the new artifact, which has a bunch of different options and tons of build crafting options centered around stasis. Now, I showed this in a previous video, so we're going to continue with the news, and I'll show you images of the artifact at the end if you'd like to take a look at its perks. Let's first start with exotic armor tuning for Revenant though. Bungie goes through, explains their changes, but we're going to give you the basic rundown of what you need to know. For the Hunter's Lucky Pants, movement bonus, increased slide distance, and sprint speed with hand cannons. Airborne effectiveness bonus is active whenever a hand cannon is equipped, not just when the illegally modded holster buff is active. No longer requires the hand cannon to be matched to the super damage type or kinetic to receive the PvE damage buff. Out of Luck cooldown will only trigger if you reach 7 stacks of the PvE damage buff before swapping off the weapon or time expires. And maximum damage has been decreased from 600% to 450%. For young Ahamkara's Spine, ability energy on trip mine grenade hits now and not just final blows. Provides 33% more grenade energy in PvE and 8% in PvP. For Blight Ranger, Arc Staff Super can be cancelled to damage and blind enemies, providing tier 4 arc weapon damage boosts. Damage scales with reflective projectiles no longer creates orbs of power but refunds super energy. Raju's Harness, they fully reworked the behavior of its exotic trait Mobius Conduit. Activating Gathering Storm calls down lightning on all nearby targets, jolting them while also amplifying allies. Defeating arc debuff targets grants a small amount of Gathering Storm energy. And lastly, we have some Hunter melee nerfs, reduced melee damage bonus when bionic enhancements and stylish executioner are both active by 50%. Now let's move on to the Titans, first with Icefall Mantle. It's been reworked to focus on frost armor, healing and freezing abilities, no longer boosts stasis weapon damage. It also allows sprinting and jumping and works with thruster abilities, requires a stasis super. For Cadmus Ridge, stasis weapon requirements have been removed. Diamond Lances now create stasis crystals on powerful combatant hits. Ursa Furiosa and Spirit of the Bear increase the PvE super energy gain by 20% and PvP reduced to 10%. Falling Star, Thunder Crash damage multiplier reduced. Overshield replaced with damage resistance, 50% PvE, 10% PvP. Melee final blows while amplified grant super energy. Peacekeepers, new SMG damage escalation bonus up to 100% in PvE. Dealing damage to combatants with an SMG increases SMG damage for a short time, maximum stacks of 20. Mask of the Quiet One, rapid final blows and final blows while at critical health will now grant Devour. Spirit of the Horn, Alpha Loopy, and Hoarfrost now work with the thruster ability, exploding, healing, or spawning stasis crystals. Now we move on to our Warlocks, first starting with the Wrathreathers. Increase shatter damage and grant super energy when providing frost armor to allies. Skull of Dire Ahamkara, weapon kills with Devour active grant super energy. Sanguine Alchemy. Marks targets damage while in a rift, providing 10% damage bonus and super weapon surge times 4. Verity's Brow. The first stack of death throws now provides plus 40% grenade damage in PvE, up from 20%. Each additional stack now provides plus 15% grenade damage and a max of 100% at 5 stacks. For the Cenotaph Mask. Damaging a vehicle, boss, or champion with a trace rifle will once again visually mark the target for the player using that weapon. Osmiomancy Gloves reduce the increased seeker distance and speed by 50%. And for Speaker's Sight, 6 instances of healing a damaged ally in Crucible will spawn an Orb of Power. Overall, there's been some changes to super damage exotic tuning. The goal here is to standardize damage output for super abilities enhanced by exotic armor while balancing difficulty and risk factors. Here is the top damage output ranked. Supers that are harder to use or put the player at more risk deal more damage. Some of the detailed changes are as follows. For Falling Star, damage multiplier reduced from 2 times to 1.55 times, but the base Thunder Crash damage increase keeps the overall damage unchanged. For the Pyro Gale Gauntlets, Cyclone's damage increased by 10%. For Spirit of the Star Eater, Nova Bomb and Thunder Crash damage bonus reduced from 70 to 50%, and Twilight Arsenal bonus reduced from 70 to 25. Celestial Nighthawk gets a little nerf with boss damage reduced by 5%. So these changes aim to make supers more balanced and competitive and reduce gaps in damage output across different super and exotic combinations. Let's now talk about changes to weapons and archetypes. For primary weapons, there's been a slight increase in critical hit damage and corresponding decrease in body shot damage for most of the primary weapons in PvE. They want to encourage more accurate gunplay while maintaining balance. Heavy burst pulse rifles get a faster rate of fire but slightly reduced PvE damage to balance PvP improvements. Snipers increase damage versus non-boss enemies and reduced flinch in PvE. Shotguns extended range in PvE for safer use in high-level content. Rocket-assisted sidearms reduced ammo reserves to limit dominance in PvE. Trace rifles get a buff in PvP ammo to improve usability. High-impact machine guns get a slight increase in critical hit damage to make them more competitive, and for heavy ammo grenade launchers shifted damage balance between impact and detonation. PvP impact damage increased. For weapon micro-tuning, there's been some adjustments to base and critical hit damage for multiple weapon archetypes to fine-tune their performance. There's been some small reductions and nerfs to adaptive hand cannons, auto rifles, and high-impact pulse rifles. As for buffs, base and critical damage increased for adaptive submachine guns, auto rifles, hand cannons, and scout rifles to improve time to kill and performance after damage falloff. Now a summary of exotic weapon changes. Bungie wants to make some adjustments to underperforming exotics with a focus on those highlighted in the seasonal artifact and some that needed updates for overall modes. For Choir of One, ammo reserves reduced for PvE, but hipfire damage against players in PvP has been increased, starts with more ammo in the Crucible. Huckleberry now fully reloads on kills, and its catalyst has been updated with the Kinetic Tremors perk for added excitement. Terabug gains solar damage resistance when Ravenous Beast is active, improving survivability in PvE and PvP. Symmetry now stacks dynamic charge on kills as well as precision hits, making it easier to build up the perk in high-pressure situations. Duality reduced the number of stacks needed for Black Wings and extended the buff duration, improving its PvE viability alongside global shotgun changes. Bad Juju increased the duration of String of Curses and magazine size, making it easier to maintain its kill streak in higher-end PvE content. Bungie has buffed direct hit damage for Exteris, flattened projectile trajectory, added reserve ammo, and reduced moth cooldown to make it easier to use and more scalable in tough content. Fighting Lion now spawns volatile bursts on direct hits, making it fit better into void builds. Prospector has been reworked to spawn cluster bombs for higher damage, removing its older sticky and flame grenade mechanics and reduced magazine size to 6. Chaperone added new ways to trigger and extend Roadborne in PvE, with stability and reload speed boost as well. And lastly for Lumina, hipfire healing shots now behave more like the new support auto rifles, enhancing its support capabilities. What about weapon perk changes? In general, a Sever debuff now correctly reduces outgoing damage in Crucible, addressing a long-standing issue. For perk adjustments themselves, Slice now works correctly in Crucible. Slideways can now be refreshed with a new slide after completing the initial one, making it smoother to use. And for Alloy Mag, buffed to increase reload speed more consistently when the magazine is nearly empty. Auto-loading holster and reconstruction slightly increased reload times to balance their high value, encouraging more effort for reload perks in damage rotations. Master of Arms now stacks up to 2 times, offering higher damage up to 25%, but with shorter duration at max stack, making it more powerful and appealing. Dawning Origin removed time limits between kills, making the perk trigger based on kills in a single life rather than rapid succession. And for Iron Banner, Iron Reach, Iron Gaze, and Iron Grip, reduce stat penalties for both base and enhanced versions, making the perks less punishing and more viable. Bungie is adding a number of new weapon mods to add a bit more variety. This set of mods is testing the waters for potentially adding more mods in future seasons. We have Combo Stat mod, which bundles 2 stats: Anti-Flinch 15% flinch reduction, Ammo Finder enhancement. Optic mods allows for customization of weapon zoom, Synergy, and Stun Loader, which partially refills this weapon's magazine on stunning a champion. Here's a look at some of the brand new weapons dropping in Revenant. You have Insurmountable, a Void Precision Frame Sidearm, Sovereignty, a Void Adaptive Frame Sniper Rifle, Red Tape Stasis Lightweight Frame Scout, Vantage Point Arc Adaptive Frame Pulse Rifle, Exuvier Stasis Aggressive Frame Hand Cannon, Bittersweet Arc Adaptive Frame Grenade Launcher, and Liturgy Stasis Double Fire Grenade Launcher. Here's all the perks that drops within those columns. Starting with Revenant, seasonal weapons will no longer be craftable. However, perks can still be enhanced using extra materials. Inspired by the success of the Brave Arsenal from Into the Light, Revenant will emphasize the chase for desirable weapon rolls rather than crafting, aligning with activities around this pursuit like Onslaught. As you progress through the episode, you unlock different ways to target specific weapons and gain extra perks in perk columns. Weapon crafting isn't being removed, but the focus is being shifted to this, at least for Revenant. Garden of Salvation weapons are returning with new perks, and one weapon even getting a new element. These weapons will be craftable, offering players the chance to chase god rolls through the revamped raid content. Some of the returning weapons are Reckless Oracle, which features perks like Destabilizing Rounds and Paracausal Affinity. Accrued Redemption, Kinetic Bow, which offers Offhand Strike and Archer's Gambit. Zealot's Reward, Void Fusion, includes Destabilizing and Reservoir Bursts. Ancient Gospel, Void Hand Cannon, comes with Rampage and Kill Clip. Sacred Providence, the Kinetic Pulse Rifle, features Demolitionist and Kinetic Tremors. Prophet of Doom Arc Shotgun has Threat Remover and Volt Shot. An Omniscient Eye Solar Sniper offers 4th times the Charm and Precision Instrument. Here's some of the other weapons returning to other modes like Competitive, Crucible, Gambit, and Nightfall. To honor old traditions, the Iron Banner will be back at the tower for 2 consecutive weeks starting on November 5th. And to reward your might and to push you to hone your skills further, Lord or Valis Saladin should I say, has brought new armor and weapons. Here's the brand new armor sets. Also come some new weapons. Tanasha's Mastery, a Stasis Rocket Frame Sidearm, and Archon's Thunder, a Stasis High-Impact Machine Gun. Bungie has fixed some weapon ornaments, and the Inverted Spire Strike is going to return with some new changes, including mainly Vex enemies that fits this story. But Guardians, that's basically it for a bulk of the information in This Week in Destiny. As I mentioned, I'll show you the artifact perks and then the video is going to end. If you'd like to see some more Destiny lore and mysteries just like this video, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. I thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next video.